Hello and welcome to this Affinity Photo tutorial, which is a beginner's guide part 9. And in this video I want to look at altering the layout of the interface as you see it when you look at Affinity Photo when you open it. Now, by and large, people who make videos for people to watch to help them learn Affinity Photo, I think they pretty much try and keep to the layout that is the default layout, so that when people watch their videos they can follow it easy. And that is something I try to do. Probably the only major change I have made is I use the lighter background, which I personally prefer. And I've also added a couple of extra icons in this toolbar down the left here, which I did sort of demonstrate in, I think, part 2. And I just want to sort of first look at how other people change their layouts. Now, I've done screen grabs of, what was this, about 5 different people's layout of their Affinity Photo of people who make tutorials, because I have seen comments over this in the past where somebody said, well, on a particular tutorial they said, oh, he used this particular tool or that particular tool, but it's not on my version. This is because not every item sort of in the default version is available sort of visually. You can get to it or you can add it in certain ways. So there's in not particular order necessarily of my favourite people that make videos, but they're just some of my ones I really like. So we'll look at Olivio Zakaris's video here, and as you can see, his tools apart down the left are the same as mine, apart from the last 2 which I have added. The other difference is he uses a dark background, and you can see because of this up here I know that he's using this on a PC. Now the main difference is in the studios down here, and even then he hasn't really altered it that much from mine, because I think, as I said, I think mine is pretty much as it is default, and I have a links tab up here which he seems to have removed, and in the other ones here we've got this same tabs but in a slightly different order, because I've got layers first and then adjustments, and he's got adjustments and layers, and it's fairly easy to move. You can just click and move it to one side, and then adjustments would be the first, but I prefer to have layers there, so you can just move those around as you want them. And then further down the bottom I think we both pretty much have the same layout down there. Now moving on to Robert Chalmers. Now because of these 3 dots up here, I know that he's using the Apple Mac version of Affinity Photo, but again it should be the same basic layout. So we have the same tools down the left here, and he seems to have many more tabs. He's added more tabs along this top studio here, because he's got things like macros and assets and what have you, and lower down that seems to be pretty much the same, and again down the bottom is pretty much the same, apart from the fact he's added an info tab, and also his studio takes up much room, sort of more room on the right, which you can do by, if you come to this edge here and get that double-ended arrow, you can move this out and make this bigger, but I'm going to put it back to where I prefer it, and that is like the default setting. Now the next one is in Affinity. Now again, tools down the left are pretty much the same. It's on the PC version, again still using the dark background, and he also has dropped the links tab in here, but he's only got 4 tabs in here, so he's dropped, which one has he dropped? He's taken away the styles tab. There's obviously something he doesn't use very often, so he has removed that. And down the bottom we got the same. Oh, he's dropped the 32p tab, which I could do, because I wouldn't touch that tab because it's quite an advanced settings thing, but I'll just leave it where it is. Then moving on to Digitally Fearless. Now he's altered his toolbar down the left to be 2 columns, so partly because he can then get the color selection option here, and I did cover this, I think it was in part 2 or part 3 of the beginner's guide. Again, this is on the Apple because you've got these 3 dots up here, and over here on the right we pretty much got the same options here, and he too seems to have dropped the styles tab, but it doesn't have the bottom studio at all, so he's obviously removed all of those ones down the bottom. And the last one we're going to look at is probably the most different of all of them, and that is by Graphical. Now he has added studio tabs, or he's moved the majority of them, or added extras to the left side of the screen, most notably the sort of scope one, and he has his histogram over here, and then in the bottom section he has info, macro and library, and on the right hand side he's only really got 3 tabs in the top studio, and he's added some extras in here, like looks like character, and the history tab is there, whereas the history tab is normally down the bottom. And down the bottom studio he's got snapshots, which is one I don't have added, and the links tab, which I've got up here, is now down the bottom. So as you can see, you can set up Affinity Photo to work the way you want it to work. If you prefer, like this scopes tool, which I must admit is a tool I really do not understand, so it's not something I would use, and I don't sort of have it added, but Graphical must sort of really like this, and he keeps it permanently here on the screen. So you can alter Affinity Photo to work the way you want it to work. So like I said, you can move this out to make it bigger if you wish. You can even bring out, sometimes I get this right, sometimes I get it wrong. If I click between the tab there and the menu, click and hold, I should be able to drag out the whole studio, so I can then have this as a floating studio. Let me see if I can get this back to the top. It's not always easy to get right. Sometimes it tries to. So you can even, if you get that blue dark bar down the side, you could add it as an extra tab on the right there. If I come to the view menu and I come down to, it should be, come to the studio option and then reset studio, it should put things back the way they should be. So I'm going to put that back there the way I want it. It does seem to have dropped the links tab, so maybe obviously links tab wasn't a default tab, because this will return it back to how it should be, sort of out of the box, using the View, Studio and Reset. So if you do move these out, you can easily put them all back where they should be with the View, Studio and Reset Studio. You can also hide the studios, so you can click on that and that will disappear and just leave you the tools down the side here, and pretty much all the options you will need can be got from the menus at the top here. So let me just bring those back. So we want Studio, hide Studio. A similar way of doing that is just holding down the Tab key, but that will hide the tools on the left as well as the studios on the right, and just pressing the Tab key will bring those back. Now, much like I moved out the whole little studio section here, you can bring out individual tabs if you want, and if you want to place it on the other side, you just bring it over until it goes, you get that blue bar, and when you let go, that will now be on the left hand side. That just gives you a smaller area to work with. Let me just click and drag this out and put it back up there where I want it. Here we go. So I pretty much try and leave mine as near to the default settings as I can, so people watching my videos can sort of follow it quite easily. Now, so, like I said, you can open up extra tabs, and when you do, they will either be added inside the studio area, or they will be added sometimes on the left, and sometimes they will be added as floating sort of studios, which you then can dock into another studio or onto the left or wherever you want. Now, some of these options comes with the text, sorry, the text options. Say for example this one here, if you click on character, it will open up the character tab, or studio I should say. So if I then went to like the View, Studio and Character, that will open up the same thing. So you can do it from either the text options or from the View menu. Now if you use text a lot, now it's probably not something that's sort of really needed in Affinity Photo so much. I mean, Affinity Designer and Publisher will obviously use text more often, but if you do use text quite a lot in Affinity Photo, you could open up all of the text tabs. Let's go with, what else we got, the glyph browser and View, Studio. We got to the glyph browser, paragraph, that's another one, View, and I think there's one more, text styles. There we go. So, and you can alter the size of this to however you want it to look, and as you open them, they may not sort of all join together like mine did. You may get them as floating menus, or it may add them into an already existing studio. I think it is doing this because it remembers the last time how I set it up, and it's just automatically clumping them together. But if you do use text quite a lot, you could make your own little studio selection and maybe dock it on the left, so you've always got your text options. But it's not necessarily something I would worry about, because pretty much all those text options are already available along the top here because there you've got character. Over here you've got paragraph. I'm guessing that's typography. There must be one here for text styles, I would imagine. Character style. So pretty much all those tabs are obtainable from the top text menu. So I will remove these and not have them open myself personally, but it may be something that you want. Now I think the last thing I want to sort of have a look at is changing the look and colour of the Affinity Photo. Like I said, I used the lighter version, but nearly all of these other, I think pretty much it was all of these other video makers stick with the darker version. But you can come to the edit menu and to preferences, and then we got user interface. You click on that, and then you can, as you can see, mine is set on light, but if you click on the dark, it will give you that dark option. But like I said, I personally prefer the light version. You have got some other sort of tinkering that you can do here, but I really don't change mine. And you can also change some other features like pixels and points and feet and what it is measured in, because it is the decimal place for unit types. So things are measured in 1 pixel at a time, but you could set it to measure in 5 pixels at a time, for example. But again, that is something I do not alter. The only thing I alter on this is whether I use dark or light background. So let me just shut down these text options, just show you how it's done. Where it must be down here, text styles is one, where we've got left character and paragraph. So again, character, get rid of, and paragraph. There we go. And I don't think I'll bother to put the links option back up there, because it's something I don't really use, so I don't have much use for it. So that is pretty much the end. Having a quick look at changing how Affinity Photo looks and will work for you. Like I said, if you find that you use one studio option or one tool on the left here that you use more than others and it's not available, it is quite easy to make it available, so it is always handy to use. But also, like I said at the beginning, if you watch a video and, let's say for example, like Graphical has on his, let's have a quick look here. See, he has the info tab open. Now, if you're watching one of his videos and he uses the info tab, which he does in this particular video quite a lot, and you're going, where is it? I can't follow his video because my Affinity Photo looks nothing like that. Just have a quick look at View, Studio, and see whether there is a studio option with the one that you can't see, in this case info. Click on that, and by default it should go down here in the bottom right, much like the navigator and transform are found, and you can then follow his video a lot easier because you now have that available. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.